The skies over Varelia Prime burned green and gold, a war-torn aurora painted by orbital bombardments. Plasma bolts arced like lightning between the fractured domes of the city, where once silver spires rose in peace. Now they were ruins, and in the shadow of those ruins, humanity's 22nd Expeditionary Force fought for every meter of ground. Private Elias Ward, 23 years old, born on a Martian outpost, ducked behind a crumbled wall. His pulse rifle hissed as it vented heat. The rest of his squad was scattered, their comms lost to interference from the alien jammers overhead. The air was thick with static and ash. Above him, a Varelian dropship screamed through the clouds, sleek, organic, its hull glimmering with bioluminescent veins. The Varelians were a noble and terrifying race. Tall, elegant, skin like polished stone, and minds linked through psionic resonance. Humanity had been at war with them for 6 years, since first contact ended in tragedy. Elias didn't hate them, not truly, but he'd seen what they could do. He'd watched a Varelian battlemind crush an entire platoon with psychic force, turning men into broken ragdolls. He was reloading when a flash of light hit the ground nearby, followed by a shockwave that threw him into a crater. His helmet display flickered, then died. When the dust cleared, he saw her. A Varelian warrior, tall and armored in living silver, stepped through the smoke. Her crest of crystalline spines shimmered faintly violet, the color of Varelian nobility. Her spear hummed with contained plasma. Her eyes locked onto his, bright and unreadable. Elias raised his rifle. But she didn't attack. Instead she spoke, in perfect translator-smoothed English. "Human soldier, lower your weapon." Her voice wasn't a command. It was a song, low and resonant, vibrating with power. Elias hesitated. "You're my enemy." She tilted her head, studying him. "You fought to protect your wounded comrade earlier. You shielded him with your own body." He blinked. "How did she?" "I am Princess Saria of House Lythar," she said. "And you are the human who saved my sister." Elias froze. Months ago, during a skirmish on an orbital station, he'd pulled an unconscious Varelian pilot out of an exploding corridor. He hadn't known her rank, just that she was alive. Saria stepped closer, spear lowered. "I owe you a life debt, human. By the code of Lythar I cannot harm you. You belong to me until that debt is repaid." He stared, disbelief written across his soot-streaked face. "I belong to no one." And then the sky tore open. Human bombers arriving, dropping kinetic rods. Saria moved with impossible speed, tackling him to the ground as the city disintegrated in a storm of molten debris. Two of the captive and the princess. When Elias awoke, the world was no longer burning. He was aboard a Varelian vessel, a strange, cathedral-like ship pulsing with faint bioluminescent light. The air was warm, breathable, and filled with the scent of ozone and something floral. He sat up, instantly reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. "Easy, human." Saria stood beside him, unarmed, her crystalline armor removed. Without it, she seemed almost fragile, though her posture carried regal command. "Where am I?" Elias demanded. "Safe," she said. "You were dying. I had you brought aboard my flagship. Your species would have left you to burn." He glared. "We don't take prisoners. We rescue our own." "Then your own have forgotten you," Saria replied softly. "Your transmission beacon was destroyed. They think you're dead." He turned away, muscles tense. Saria gestured to a table where a strange meal awaited, shimmering fruit and steaming protein strands. "Eat. You need strength. I'm not your pet." Her lips curved, not quite a smile but something like amusement. "No, human. You are my debt. And Virilians repay what we owe." Days passed in uneasy coexistence. Elias healed. Saria visited often, questioning him about human culture, war, and emotion. He was wary, but loneliness wore him down. She was curious in ways that surprised him, fascinated by how humans fought not as a hive mind but as individuals bound by loyalty and choice. "You kill for one another," she said one evening, her tone contemplative. "Without psychic compulsion. Without order. Just trust. That's what makes us human," Elias replied. She touched her chest lightly. "Virilians once fought like that long ago. Before the linking. The linking. Our minds are joined, most of us. A network of thought and memory. It ended war among us. But also love." Her gaze flicked to him. "We forgot how to choose for ourselves." Elias swallowed. "That sounds like peace." "It's silence," she said. "And I envy your noise." That night, for the first time, he saw her remove her crown crest, a gesture of vulnerability among her kind. 3. The human who changed the war. Weeks later, the Virilian Council summoned Saria back to their core world. News of her harboring a human had reached the Triarchs, the ruling minds of the Empire. They ordered her to deliver Elias for interrogation. She refused. "He saved royal blood," she declared before the council. "By the law of the code. His life is under my protection." The Triarch's response was cold and absolute. "The law does not bind the Empire when humanity is concerned. You are compromised by alien sentiment." Saria's defiance cost her everything. Her title stripped, her command revoked. She fled with Elias aboard a stolen courier ship. They became fugitives, hunted by both species. The Virilians wanted to erase the shame of her rebellion. The humans, learning she had taken one of their soldiers, branded Elias a traitor or hostage. In the isolation of deep space, they depended on each other to survive. They scavenged asteroids for resources, dodged patrols, and slept in shifts beneath the glow of alien stars. And slowly, against all logic, something unspoken grew between them. It began in shared laughter over how alien food always tasted like soap to Elias. It deepened when she taught him the Virilian word, awry, a concept meaning, one whose presence disrupts the silence of your mind. One night, when a human cruiser nearly caught them in its sensor net, Elias asked why she didn't just let him go. Saria looked at him for a long time. "Because the silence is louder without you in it." For the return to war. Their fragile peace ended when the Armistice Summit was announced, a rare truce meeting between human and Virilian envoys on a neutral moon. Both sides sought a symbolic gesture to prove goodwill. Elias, haunted by guilt and longing for home, proposed something impossible. "Let me return to them," he told Saria. "If they see I'm alive, that you saved me, it might change everything." She looked pained. "They'll execute you as a deserter." "Maybe. But it's worth the risk." Saria agreed, though her voice trembled when she said it. "If you die, the debt remains unpaid. And I will owe vengeance instead of gratitude." They landed under false clearance codes. The summit's dome shimmered in the thin atmosphere, guarded by soldiers from both sides. When Elias stepped into the chamber, gasps echoed through the human ranks. Commander Hayes, his former superior, looked stunned. "Ward, we thought you were Kia." "I was," Elias said. "Until she saved me." Every head turned as Princess Saria entered, unarmed, regal even in exile. The human officers tensed, hands on their weapons. She raised her voice, the sound carrying unnatural weight. "This human belongs to me." The declaration froze the room. She continued before anyone could react. "He is under my protection. He saved Virelian life when he had every reason to end it. I return that debt. The war between us must end, or it will devour what is left of our honor." There was silence. The human envoy whispered to Hayes. The Virelian delegates murmured among themselves, the translators flickering with strain. Then Elias stepped forward. "She's right. I've seen both sides, and neither is righteous enough to survive without mercy." The chamber erupted in argument. But amid the chaos, one truth rang clear. Neither side could afford to lose the moral ground of that moment. A fragile truce was signed. Not peace, but a pause long enough for history to take a breath. The exile's promise. Months later, on a distant outpost orbiting a blue-white sun, Elias stood beside Saria watching cargo ships pass. The war had ended, officially, yet both of them were outcasts. Humanity didn't trust him. The Virelians wouldn't forgive her. They'd chosen exile together. "You could have gone home," she said quietly. He shook his head. "Home's wherever someone waits for you." She smiled faintly, the glow of her crest catching the light. "Among my people, that's what we call a bond mark. A promise of unity." He grinned. "Guess I'm learning your culture after all." Silence fell between them, but it was the good kind. The kind she once said her people had forgotten. Then her expression changed, distant and uncertain. "There is something you should know, Elias. The linking, it's weakening. The war fractured it. More Virelians are hearing themselves again, feeling differently." "You mean they're becoming individuals?" "Yes, and it terrifies them. They will look to someone to blame." He frowned. "You think they'll come after you?" "Us," she corrected softly. "They'll come after us." Elias reached for her hand, surprised when she didn't pull away. Her fingers were cool, almost crystalline. "Then we'll face them," he said. "Together." She studied him, this flawed mortal creature, and felt something stir that had no translation. 6. Epilogue. The Legend of the Human and the Princess. Decades later, historians would argue about what truly ended the human-Virelian war. Some said it was economic collapse. Others credited political exhaustion. But soldiers who'd fought at Virelia Prime told a different story. They spoke of a princess who defied her empire and a human who taught her the meaning of choice. Of how she stood in a council hall and pointed at him before gods and generals and said, "That human belongs to me." And in that declaration, part defiance, part love, something shifted in the minds of two civilizations. The story spread, warped, and became legend. In time, children of both species grew up hearing of the soldier and the alien princess who dared to share a silence together, and how their bond outlasted empires. And somewhere, in a hidden station orbiting a nameless star, two figures still watched over the galaxy they had once helped reshape. The soldier and the princess, side by side, forever interrupting the silence.